I remember the exact moment my entire world collapsed. It was not in a slow fade or a gradual breakdown. It happened in a flash, in one shocking instant that I will never be able to erase from my memory. The room was dimly lit, the air heavy with the kind of heat that makes the skin burn even before a touch. Ryan's lips were pressed against mine with a hunger I had not felt in years, his hands gripping me like he was afraid I would disappear if he let go. I was lost, completely consumed by him, when I heard it, the unmistakable sound of the front door opening. My heart froze. The world stopped spinning. And then I saw him. David, my husband. He stood in the doorway, his face pale, his body stiff, his eyes wide with disbelief as he took in the sight of his wife tangled up in another man's arms. In that single heartbeat, passion turned into poison, and desire turned into devastation. Before I continue, let me take a moment to thank everyone here on the channel. To all of you who have subscribed, thank you from the bottom of my heart. And to the new and returning viewers who are watching but have not yet subscribed, I cannot wait for you to hit that subscribe button. It is the fuel and energy that keeps this channel alive. Do not forget to drop your thoughts in the comments as you listen, because your voices matter. Now, let us continue. My name is Claire. I am an American white woman in my mid-30s. On the outside, I was everything a wife was supposed to be. Married to David for 9 years, we had the house in the suburbs, the quiet life that people dream about, the image of stability and love. But inside me, something was missing. Something I could not put into words. That missing piece found its way into the form of Ryan. Ryan was the opposite of David. Where David was calm, responsible, and predictable, Ryan was wild, spontaneous, and dangerous in ways that thrilled me. He made me feel alive, like I had been sleeping through my marriage and suddenly woken up in a blaze of fire. I told myself it would just be once. One moment of reckless passion that no one would ever know about. But in that moment when David's eyes met mine, I knew that lie had destroyed everything. Claire, what is this? David's voice cracked like glass. He sounded broken, like the ground had just split beneath him. I tried to speak, but my mouth was dry, my body trembling. I could feel Ryan stepping back, but the damage was already done. My husband had seen enough. David dropped the grocery bag he was carrying, and the sound of the bottles breaking on the floor echoed like gunshots in my chest. He turned away from me, his breathing heavy, his fists clenched. For the first time in all our years together, I saw him as a stranger. I wanted to run to him. I wanted to beg him to listen, to understand, to forgive. But what words could I possibly use? How could I explain why another man's lips had been on mine? How could I tell him that in Ryan's touch I had found something I thought was missing from my life, even though it was costing me everything I had built with David? The silence was unbearable. David's eyes were filled with tears he refused to let fall. His face was red, his jaw tight, and when he finally spoke, his voice was like a blade. Get out of my sight, Claire. Both of you. Ryan hesitated, glancing at me, but I could not even look at him. He slipped out of the house without a word, leaving me behind to face the storm alone. David walked to the kitchen, his back to me, his body shaking with rage. I followed slowly, my hands trembling, my voice weak. David, please. I did not mean for this to happen. He spun around, his eyes burning with betrayal. You did not mean for this to happen? Do you even hear yourself, Claire? I gave you everything. I trusted you with my life, and this is what you do to me. I could not breathe. Shame washed over me like fire, and the weight of what I had done pressed down so heavily I thought I might collapse. But beneath the shame, there was something darker. A twisted truth I hated myself for feeling. I still wanted Ryan. Even with my marriage in ruins, my heart was still tangled in forbidden desire. The night stretched endlessly. David locked himself in the guest room, and I sat alone in our bedroom, staring at the walls, drowning in guilt. Every sound of the house felt different now, every shadow reminding me of what I had destroyed. I knew in that moment that my marriage would never be the same again. But what I did not know was that this was only the beginning. The real consequences had not even started yet. The morning after David caught me was heavy with silence. The air in the house felt thick, as though even the walls knew what had happened. I sat at the dining table with a cup of coffee that had gone cold, while David moved around like a ghost. He avoided my eyes, his jaw clenched tight, his movements sharp and deliberate. Every sound, the clatter of dishes, the opening and closing of doors, was a reminder that we were living in the wreckage of what used to be love. I tried to speak, but every time I opened my mouth, the words seemed to die before reaching my lips. What could I possibly say that would make this better? Nothing. The truth was already out, and the truth was ugly. By the third day, David's silence turned into words. Words that were sharper than knives. "You disgust me, Claire," he said, his voice low but filled with venom. "You let another man touch you while wearing my ring. While living in my house. While sharing my bed." His words cut me open, but I did not fight back. I had no defense. He was right. The neighbors began to notice the change. David stopped mowing the lawn, something he always took pride in. I stopped going to the local yoga classes where women in our neighborhood would gossip and share stories about their husbands. When I walked outside, I felt their eyes on me. Maybe it was paranoia, or maybe David had already told someone what I had done. Either way, the weight of suspicion pressed down on me like chains. Ryan called me. Again and again. His number lighting up my phone became both a temptation and a curse. Part of me wanted to hear his voice, to be swept back into that burning fire that had made me feel alive. But another part of me wanted to throw the phone against the wall and erase him from my life forever. One night, when David had locked himself in the guest room again, I answered. "Claire," Ryan said, his voice low and urgent. "I cannot stop thinking about you. I know everything is a mess, but I cannot let you go." Hearing him stirred something dangerous in me. Guilt and desire collided, leaving me breathless. "Ryan, you need to stop. David hates me now. My marriage is falling apart. This is all wrong." But even as I said it, my heart betrayed me. I wanted him. I wanted the danger, the passion, the escape from the cold silence of my home. The next morning, David confronted me. His phone was in his hand, and his face was pale. "You are still talking to him," he said. My heart stopped. "David." He threw the phone onto the couch, the screen glowing with my call history. "You think I am stupid? You think I would not find out? Claire, you did not just betray me once. You are still betraying me every second you let him near you." I had no words. Tears filled my eyes, but David's anger burned hotter than my sorrow. That night he packed a bag and left the house. He did not tell me where he was going. He did not even look at me as he walked out the door. For the first time in 9 years, I slept in our home completely alone, and the silence was deafening. Days turned into weeks. David returned eventually, but he was different. Colder. More distant. He moved through the house like a stranger, and when he looked at me, his eyes carried nothing but bitterness. And then came the twist I never saw coming. Ryan showed up at my workplace. He cornered me in the parking lot, his eyes wild with a desperation I had never seen before. "Claire, you cannot keep pretending," he said. "You need to leave him. Be with me. You know we belong together." I froze. I had never promised Ryan anything beyond stolen moments. I had never told him I would leave David. But the way he looked at me, like I was the answer to all of his needs, terrified me. "Ryan, you need to leave. This is not the time, not the place." But he stepped closer, his voice firm. "If you do not tell him the truth, I will." I felt my blood run cold. The passion that once set me on fire now felt like a trap, a cage I had walked into willingly but could not escape. Ryan was not just a mistake anymore, he was a danger. That night, when David returned home, I watched him move around the house with his cold indifference, and a horrible thought struck me. If Ryan told him everything, every kiss, every touch, every secret, I would lose David completely. There would be no chance left, no shred of dignity, nothing but ashes. The weight of my choices pressed down on me. I was trapped between two men, one who hated me for what I had done, and one who refused to let me go no matter how destructive it became. And I realized then that the worst was yet to come. The house no longer felt like home. It was a battlefield, and every room carried the echo of what I had destroyed. David had not touched me in weeks. He barely spoke, and when he did, his words carried nothing but resentment. I could feel him slipping away from me, and the worst part was knowing that I had pushed him there. But it was Ryan who finally broke the fragile silence. It happened on a Sunday evening. David and I were at the dinner table. The silence between us was crushing, broken only by the sound of forks scraping against plates. And then the doorbell rang. David glanced at me suspiciously, as though he already knew who it was. My stomach twisted into knots. I rose slowly, my legs trembling beneath me, and when I opened the door, my worst fear stood on the other side. Ryan. He was dressed in casual clothes, but his eyes burned with something that felt like obsession. He pushed past me into the house before I could stop him. David stood immediately, his chair scraping loudly against the floor. "What the hell are you doing here?" David's voice thundered through the room. Ryan's eyes locked on mine. "She needs to tell you the truth. All of it." I felt the blood drain from my face. My secrets, the ones I thought I could bury, were about to spill out in front of the man whose love I had already shattered. David's eyes narrowed. "What truth?" Ryan stepped closer, his voice firm. "It was not just once, David. She has been with me. More than once. She calls me when you are not around. She cannot stop thinking about me." The room spun. My lungs felt like they had collapsed. David's eyes snapped to me, filled with a fury I had never seen before. "Claire," he said slowly, each word laced with venom, "is that true?" I opened my mouth, but no words came. Tears blurred my vision. I wanted to deny it, to scream that it was not as bad as Ryan made it sound, but the truth hung between us like a noose around my neck. My silence was the answer David needed. He laughed bitterly, the sound hollow and cruel. "I knew it. I knew you were not done with him." Ryan reached for my arm as though to pull me to his side. "You do not have to stay here, Claire. Leave with me. We can be together without all this guilt." I ripped my arm away, my body trembling. For the first time I saw Ryan clearly, not as the man who had made me feel alive, but as the man who had dragged me into a fire I could never escape. His obsession was not love. It was control. It was destruction. "Get out, Ryan!" I screamed. "You have done enough." David's face twisted in rage. He stormed to the door, opened it wide, and pointed outside. "Both of you. Get out of my house." My heart shattered. "David, please. Do not call me David," he snapped. "Do not speak to me like I am still your husband. You killed that the second you let him touch you. Pack your things and leave. You are no longer welcome here." The finality in his voice left no room for begging. He turned away, his back rigid, his shoulders heavy with betrayal. He would never look at me the same way again. I gathered my belongings that night with tears streaming down my face. Every photo, every memory, every piece of the life we had built together felt like it was stabbing me as I placed it into boxes. Ryan lingered outside, waiting, but I could not even look at him. The fire he had lit in me had burned everything down, leaving nothing but ashes. When I stepped out of the house for the last time, the night air was cold against my tear-stained face. David stood in the doorway, his expression empty, his eyes dead to me. He shut the door slowly, and with that final click, my marriage ended. I stood on the sidewalk with my suitcase, staring at the closed door, realizing I had lost both men in one night. David, the man who had loved me with patience and devotion, was gone. And Ryan, the man who had consumed me with passion, was nothing but a shadow of bad choices and obsession. I had chased a flame that was never meant to last. I had thrown away stability for chaos, love for lust, truth for lies. And now, I was alone. The silence of that night was louder than any argument we had ever had. It was the sound of an ending I had written with my own hands. I thought I was searching for something more. But all I had found was regret. And there would be no forgiveness. Not now. Not ever.